Have you ever watched a love story so messy, so bizarrely dramatic, that you almost felt like screaming at the screen? Do these people even know what they're fighting about? Because that, my friends, is exactly what happened in Sullivan's Crossing Season 3. Now, I need to be brutally honest here. Maggie and Cal's big fight wasn't just your average couple spat. It was a full-blown mystery that the show never bothered to actually solve. And the more you look at it, the more you realize this fight hides a secret flaw so massive, it could completely unravel the show if Season 4 doesn't address it. Think about it. Cal, the supposedly brooding, emotionally scarred lawyer turned small-town handyman, delivers Maggie an ultimatum. Choose the city or choose me. Dramatic, right? Almost noble. Except here's the problem. Cal's argument falls apart the second you ask one very simple question. And I know you've wondered this too. How on earth are Cal and Maggie surviving with literally zero income? Let's be real for a second. Cal has been out of work for what, at least a year? His wife's medical bills alone should have drained any savings he might have had. And Maggie, fresh out of medical school, buried under debt, plus legal fees from her trial. Yet somehow they're chilling in Sullivan's Crossing like money rains from the sky. Tell me that doesn't make you suspicious. Because here's where things get really spicy. Their big fight wasn't just about Maggie wanting to practice medicine again or Cal's refusal to return to law. No, underneath all that melodrama, the writers accidentally exposed a gaping hole in the story's logic. It's almost as if the show is hiding something it doesn't want us to see. And let me just say, if you think Virgin River was a little soapy, Sullivan's Crossing basically said, "Hold my coffee." At least Virgin River gave us believable small town jobs and bills to pay. In Sullivan's Crossing, it's as if financial reality simply doesn't exist. But here's the question that's been haunting me since that finale. Was Maggie and Cal's fight about love, or was it actually about the ugly truth that neither of them can admit? That maybe, just maybe, their so-called simple life in Timberlake is built on a financial fantasy that cannot last. And that brings us to the heart of the controversy. Because if Sullivan's Crossing doesn't fix this in Season 4, then Maggie and Cal's entire romance collapses under the weight of its own unbelievable foundation. Now, before I reveal the forbidden knowledge hidden inside this fight, the real secret that the show is avoiding, I need you to do something for me. If you've ever screamed at your TV in frustration during this show, if you've ever thought, "Wait a second, that doesn't make sense," then you have to subscribe right now. Because what I'm about to break down will have you looking at Maggie and Cal in a completely different way. Alright, let's go deeper. Okay, let's peel back the curtain. Because once you stop swooning over Cal's tortured stares and Maggie's emotional speeches, something much darker starts to appear. Their fight in Season 3 wasn't really about distance or careers. It was about control, and more importantly, survival. Here's the forbidden truth: Cal doesn't actually want Maggie to succeed. Not fully. He says he loves her, he says he supports her, but when push comes to shove, he only supports her when it keeps her in Sullivan's Crossing, locked into his definition of the good life. The moment Maggie talks about building a career, practicing medicine, or returning to Boston, Cal becomes hostile. Why? Because the second Maggie steps back into the city, the illusion of their fairy tale falls apart. And let's not forget, Maggie isn't innocent here either. She clings to the idea of Cal as a safe harbor, the place she can hide after the storm of her father's betrayal and her legal troubles. But ask yourself, is she in love with Cal? Or is she in love with the version of herself she gets to play when she's with him? Because if Maggie really wanted independence, she'd face her debt, rebuild her medical reputation, and own her future. Instead, she chooses the easier path, pretending that chopping wood and kissing Cal by the lake is a sustainable plan. But here's the kicker. Season 3 tried to frame this fight as emotional, even romantic, when in reality, it exposed the ugliest truth of all: neither of them is telling the truth about what they really want. And I know I'm not the only one who noticed. So let's do this. Drop it in the comments. Are you Team Maggie's career or Team Cal's fantasy? Do you think she belongs in the city saving lives? Or should she throw it all away to play lumberjack Barbie with Cal in Timberlake? Personally, I'll admit I laughed out loud during their fight scene. Because imagine it, two people with no jobs, no money, and no plan fighting about where to live. That's like me arguing with my friend about which Ferrari we're going to drive to dinner, while we're both broke and sitting on the bus. And yet, here's what's wild: this flaw might actually be intentional. Think about it. What if the writers are setting up season 4 to finally force Maggie and Cal to face financial reality? What if this isn't sloppy writing at all, but a ticking time bomb that's about to explode? Because let's be brutally honest, so much of Sullivan's Crossing has been built on illusion. The illusion of peace, the illusion of healing, the illusion that this quiet little town can somehow shield Maggie and Cal from the real world. But illusions can't last forever, and when they shatter hard. And maybe, just maybe, Season 4 is where the cracks finally split wide open. But before I dive into how Season 4 could weaponize this hidden flaw, forcing Maggie to confront debt, forcing Cal to face his own failures, I want to hear from you. Be real for a second. If you were in Maggie's shoes, would you risk your career for love? Or would you leave Cal behind and build a future that actually makes sense? Because your answer might just predict exactly how Season 4 will end. So let's stop pretending and ask the real question. How does Season 4 actually fix this? Because if the writers keep brushing Maggie and Cal's financial nightmare under the rug, viewers won't just roll their eyes, they'll start checking out. Theory 1. Maggie goes back to medicine. Not because she wants to leave Cal, but because she realizes her career isn't optional. It's survival. Imagine the drama if Season 4 opens with her returning to Boston, reclaiming her license, and suddenly being torn between her love for Cal and the brutal demands of the hospital. That's not just realistic. That's compelling television. Theory 2. Cal has to face his demons. He can't keep hiding in Sullivan's Crossing, sipping beer on the porch, and pretending trauma magically heals itself. What if Season 4 forces him into a corner? Therapy, accountability, maybe even a career shift that tests whether he's really capable of being the partner Maggie needs. Because let's be real, love without growth is just stagnation. And Theory 3, the darkest one of all. What if Sullivan's Crossing itself is the trap? What if the very place meant to save them becomes the reason they break? Because the second Maggie reclaims her career, the fantasy of staying in town collapses. Season 4 could finally force them to choose: do we chase the illusion of peace, or do we fight for a future that actually works? Now here's where it gets juicy. Remember how Season 3 sprinkled in that talk about community, about belonging? What if that wasn't filler dialogue, but foreshadowing? Because the real solution might not be Maggie or Cal bending, it might be Sullivan's Crossing itself changing. A compromise where Maggie builds a medical practice in town, Cal faces his demons head on, and both of them stop pretending they can survive on vibes alone. But let's not sugarcoat this. Season 4 will decide whether Maggie and Cal are an endgame couple, or just a cautionary tale about what happens when you build love on a foundation of fantasy. And trust me, if the writers get this wrong, fans are going to riot harder than they did during Season 3's breakup scene. So, let's lock this in with you guys. If you've made it this far, you already know you're part of the inner circle. The people who don't just watch Sullivan's Crossing, but dissect it. So here's what I want: drop your wildest theory for Season 4 in the comments. Does Maggie rebuild her medical career? Does Cal finally evolve past the tortured lumberjack vibe? Or do they crash and burn in the most dramatic breakup Canadian television has ever seen? And if you're new here, yeah, you. The one who thought you could just sneak in and watch without subscribing. Buddy, come on. Hit that subscribe button right now, because we're going to be breaking down every twist, every leak, every fan theory about Sullivan's Crossing before Season 4 drops. And trust me, you don't want to be the last one at the campfire without the tea. Let's end on this: love isn't just hugs by the lake and dramatic stares into the sunset. Love is sacrifice. Love is choosing growth even when it hurts. And if Maggie and Cal can't figure that out in Season 4, well, let's just say their fairy tale might be headed for the kind of tragic ending that even Netflix won't sugarcoat. But hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Sullivan's Crossing really is the miracle cure for broken people. Maybe Cal really can heal just by chopping wood, and maybe Maggie really can live without ever practicing medicine again. Yeah, no. Even I couldn't say that with a straight face.